The moment I saw her walk down the aisle, my heart almost stopped. The crowd gasped in admiration. The soft music played, and her white gown glittered like morning dew. But I didn't see the dress. No, my eyes went straight to her neck. There it was. My necklace. The same gold necklace my late husband had given me on our 30th wedding anniversary. The one that was stolen from my house 2 years ago. It was shining on her skin, bold and beautiful, just as it used to shine on mine. I could never mistake it for another. It had a tiny diamond chip missing from the right side of the pendant. A mark I knew too well. My chest tightened. I held my cane firmly and smiled, though my heart was burning. People around me thought I was smiling out of joy for the bride, but no one knew the storm raging inside me. And when her eyes met mine, she froze, only for a second, then looked away quickly, pretending to fix her veil. That tiny reaction told me everything I needed to know. She knew what she had done. I smiled wider. Oh, I smiled so sweetly that the guests might have thought I was the happiest grandmother in the room. But deep down, I was already planning my next move. Because that necklace wasn't just jewelry, it was a piece of my soul. Now let me tell you how it all began. 2 years earlier, life was calm and quiet for me in my small, warm house at the edge of town. My name is Grandma Rose. At least that's what everyone calls me. My house had always been full of laughter, love, and the smell of apple pie. My husband, Henry, passed away years ago, but his memory lived on through the things he left behind. Especially that gold necklace. It was the last gift he ever gave me before he died. So that you'll never forget how beautiful you are, even when I'm gone, he'd said with that gentle smile of his. I wore it almost every day. It made me feel close to him. But one afternoon, I came home from church and found my bedroom turned upside down. Drawers were open, clothes scattered everywhere, and my jewelry box was empty. I screamed. My heart pounded so hard I thought I would faint. The police came, neighbors came, but the thief was never found. The only thing that truly mattered to me, that necklace, was gone. I cried for weeks. Not because of its price, but because of what it meant to me. Months passed and life went on. My daughter, Linda, would visit often, bringing her 2 children, Emma and Grace, along. Grace, the younger one, was my favorite. She was sweet, polite, and always asked me to tell her stories from the old days. She was about to turn 25 when she introduced me to her new friend, a young woman named Clara. Clara was charming, beautiful, and full of laughter. But something about her smile never sat right with me. You know how old women like me can sense things others can't? My instincts told me to keep an eye on her. She would visit the house sometimes with Grace, helping in the kitchen, chatting endlessly, always asking questions about my late husband and his gifts. One day, as we were making cookies, she said, "Grandma Rose, I bet you had beautiful jewelry when you were younger." I chuckled. "I still do, my dear." "Well, I did," I said softly, "until someone took the most precious one." "Oh no," she gasped, pretending to be shocked. "What happened?" "It was stolen," I said. "The necklace my Henry gave me before he passed." She looked at me, her eyes wide. Too wide. "That's terrible," she whispered, but her hand trembled slightly as she stirred the dough. I didn't think much of it then, but something about the way she avoided my eyes stayed with me. Weeks turned into months. Grace and Clara became even closer. They started planning their weddings. Yes, weddings. Grace was engaged to a fine young man named Tom, and Clara too was preparing to marry her fiancé, Richard. Coincidentally, both weddings were planned just weeks apart. But before Grace's wedding, something strange happened. Clara stopped visiting. Grace said she was busy with her dress fittings and honeymoon plans. I thought nothing of it, until that one Sunday morning when Grace mentioned, "Grandma, Clara said she found the perfect necklace for her wedding, something old and gold. She says it's her good luck charm." My spoon froze midair. "Old and gold?" I asked quietly. "Yes," Grace said, sipping her tea. "She said it has a little diamond chip missing from it. Isn't that funny?" I dropped the spoon. My hands trembled. What did you say?" Grace looked at me confused. "A tiny diamond chip missing. Why?" I didn't answer. My throat felt dry. Could it be? Could my stolen necklace have found its way into Clara's hands? My heart wanted to believe it wasn't true, but deep inside I knew. So when the day of her wedding came, I dressed carefully, wearing my old blue gown and pearl earrings. Grace had insisted I attend as a family friend. My mind wasn't at peace. Every step I took toward that wedding hall made my heart beat faster. And then there she was, walking down the aisle, the guests rising to their feet, her face glowing with pride and beauty. But to me she wasn't a glowing bride. She was a thief wearing my memories. As she passed, her eyes flickered toward me, then away. That single glance confirmed everything. The audacity of that girl. To wear my necklace, my Henry's last gift on her wedding day. But I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I didn't cause a scene. I smiled. A calm, knowing smile. Because sometimes silence cuts deeper than words. And I had already decided that before the night was over, Clara would learn a lesson she would never forget. The reception began. People laughed, danced, and toasted to love. I sat quietly at my table, watching her every move. She avoided me the entire time. But fate, my dear, has a funny way of bringing truth to light. Because just as they were about to cut the cake, something unexpected happened. Something that made every single guest turn to look at the bride in shock. The knife slipped from her hand and clattered onto the floor with a sharp clang. The music stopped. Every head turned toward the bride. Clara stood frozen, her face pale as snow, her trembling hand clutching her chest where the necklace rested. For a moment, nobody moved. The laughter died down. Even the children stopped running around. The only sound was the faint hum of the air conditioner. Then I stood up. Slowly, calmly. My cane tapped the marble floor with each step I took toward her. Top, top, top. People whispered, wondering why Grandma Rose was walking toward the bride. Clara's eyes widened in fear. She stepped back slightly, her hand still holding the necklace as if to protect it. "My dear," I said softly, smiling just as sweetly as I did when she walked down the aisle. "You dropped something." She blinked confused and whispered, What?" I leaned closer, still smiling. "Your conscience, my dear." The guests gasped. Clara's lips parted, but no words came out. Her groom, Richard, looked from her to me, completely lost. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. I pointed to the necklace. "That beautiful piece you're wearing. Tell me, where did you get it?" Her hands flew up to her neck, as if she suddenly realized what I was referring to. "This," she stammered. It was a gift. A family heirloom." "Oh." I raised an eyebrow. "That's strange, because it used to be my heirloom. Until someone broke into my home 2 years ago and stole it. It has a small diamond chip missing on the right side of the pendant. Only one necklace in the world has that mark. Meaning." The hall went completely silent. Richard looked at her, confused. "Clara, is that true?" Her lips trembled. I don't know what she's talking about," she cried, trying to laugh it off, but her voice cracked. I chuckled softly. "Oh, don't worry, child. I'm not angry. I just wanted to see how long you could lie. Especially while wearing a stolen treasure before God and everyone you love." A murmur spread through the guests like wildfire. Cameras stopped flashing. The music band froze, their hands hovering over instruments. Clara looked around helplessly, tears welling in her eyes. "Grandma Rose," she said desperately. "Please, let's talk outside. Not here." I tilted my head slightly. "Outside? Why? Are you afraid of the truth?" Richard stepped forward. "Clara, tell me this isn't true," he demanded. His voice was tight, his jaw clenched. Tears began to roll down her cheeks. I didn't steal it," she sobbed. "I bought it from a jewelry shop. I didn't know." "Enough," I interrupted gently but firmly. "You bought it from a shop, did you? Then perhaps you can tell us which one, so I can go there myself." She froze again. Her silence was louder than any confession. At that moment, Grace ran toward me. "Grandma, please," she whispered. "Let's not make a scene. Maybe it's just a coincidence." I turned to her with sad eyes. "My dear, sometimes coincidence wears the same scars as truth. Look closely at the pendant." Grace hesitated, then looked. She gasped softly. "The chip, it's exactly where you said it was." I nodded. "Yes, darling. That necklace belonged to your grandfather. And now it's on the neck of a liar." Clara broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Her groom stepped back, his face pale. Clara, he whispered. Did you steal this necklace? Her knees gave way, and she fell to the floor. I didn't mean to, she cried. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. People gasped again. Some whispered prayers, others stared in disbelief. I sighed deeply and walked closer to her. You didn't mean to? I said softly. Tell me, how did my necklace end up with you then? Between sobs, her story tumbled out. I used to work as a cleaner in your neighborhood, she said, her voice shaking. That day, I went with my cousin to your house. She told me you weren't home, and she wanted to look around. She said there were old things you didn't need anymore. I tried to stop her, but she took the necklace and sold it. Later, she gave me the same necklace as a gift, said she bought it from a second-hand shop. I didn't know it was yours until Grace mentioned it the other day. Then why didn't you return it? I asked quietly. She looked up at me with wet eyes. Because I was ashamed, she whispered. I didn't know how to face you. And when I got engaged, I thought wearing something old and gold would bring me luck. But instead it brought me this. The hall was so silent you could hear the ticking of the clock. I stared at her for a long moment, my mind spinning between anger and pity. She looked so broken. A bride, on her wedding day, kneeling before me with tears streaming down her face. Get up, child, I said finally. She hesitated, then rose slowly, wiping her tears. I took a deep breath and said, You've done a terrible thing, Clara. But you've also taught everyone here something today. That no secret stays buried forever. The truth always finds its way out, even at the most unexpected moment. She nodded silently, trembling. Then I reached out and touched the necklace. This belonged to my husband, and now I have seen it again. That's enough for me. I unhooked the chain from her neck gently, and held it in my wrinkled hand. For a moment, I felt Henry's presence again, like he was standing beside me smiling. Then I turned to the guests and said softly, Let the wedding continue. Everyone gasped. Some applauded quietly. Clara covered her face and wept. I turned and walked back to my seat, my cane tapping the floor once again, tap, tap, tap. But as I sat down, I felt a strange chill run down my spine. Something wasn't right. I looked toward the back of the hall. And there, standing near the exit, was a woman in a black hat, watching me with sharp, cold eyes. She smirked when our eyes met, then disappeared into the crowd. My heart skipped. That face, it looked familiar. Too familiar. And suddenly, I remembered. She was the same woman who used to clean my house the week before the necklace was stolen. A shiver went through me. The woman's face haunted me. Even after the wedding ended, her sharp eyes and cold smirk replayed in my mind like an old record that refused to stop spinning. I didn't say a word to anyone. I just sat quietly as the crowd dispersed, pretending to be tired. But deep inside, I was wide awake, alert like a cat sensing danger. The bride, Clara, had been helped to the back room to rest. People whispered as they passed me. Some pitied her, others pitied me. But I wasn't thinking about Clara anymore. My mind was on that woman in the black hat, the one who had vanished before I could blink. I leaned on my cane and stood up slowly. Grace hurried toward me. Grandma, please sit down. You need to rest. I smiled faintly. Rest can wait, my dear. Did you see a woman in a black hat just now? Grace frowned. A black hat? No. Who was she? I looked toward the door again, but she was gone. Someone I thought I'd never see again, I murmured. But it seems ghosts don't stay buried forever. Grace looked confused. Grandma, you're scaring me. Who was that? I patted her hand. Don't worry, my child. Just take me home. I'll explain later. That night, I couldn't sleep. The rain tapped lightly on my window, and thunder rolled far away. I sat in my rocking chair, clutching the necklace in my hand, staring at it under the lamp's yellow glow. The tiny diamond chip still caught the light just right. It was truly mine. But the question remained. How had it ended up with Clara? Clara said her cousin took it. Could the woman in black be that cousin? I closed my eyes and tried to remember the faces of every cleaner who had ever come to my house. Then it hit me, her name was Lydia. She worked for me for only 3 weeks. She had kind eyes, or so I thought, and always greeted me with "Good morning, ma'am," in that sweet voice. But after the day of the theft, she vanished completely. Her number stopped working, and nobody in the neighborhood knew where she'd gone. Now she was back, watching me. The next morning, Grace came to check on me. "Grandma, are you okay? You look like you didn't sleep." I smiled weakly. "You're right, dear. I didn't. But I need you to do something for me." "Anything," she said quickly. "I want you to find Clara. Tell her I want to see her, privately, and make sure she brings any information she has about her cousin who gave her that necklace." Grace hesitated. "You want to see her again after what happened?" "Yes," I said firmly. "There's more to this story than she told us." Later that day, Clara came to my house. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her once glittering hair now tied in a messy bun. She looked broken, humbled. "Grandma Rose," she said softly, standing at the door like a child waiting for punishment. I gestured for her to come in. "Sit down, Clara. I'm not here to shame you." She sat down nervously, hands trembling in her lap. "Do you remember the cousin who gave you the necklace?" I asked. She nodded slowly. "Yes. Her name is Lydia. She used to work for an old woman in town. I think it was you." I leaned forward. "That's right. She worked for me for 3 weeks before the necklace disappeared. Tell me, Clara, where is she now?" Clara bit her lip. "I don't know exactly. But she came to my wedding today. She said she wanted to see me one last time. She even helped me fix my veil before I walked down the aisle." I felt a chill run down my arms. "So she was there," I said softly. "Watching." Clara nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "She told me to wear the necklace proudly. She said it would bring me blessings." I stood up suddenly, my chair creaking. "Blessings?" I scoffed. "That woman brought you nothing but curses. And now she's roaming free, thinking she got away with everything." Clara looked frightened. "What are you going to do?" I smiled faintly, though my eyes burned with fire. "I may be old, my dear, but I'm not weak. That woman thinks she can steal memories and walk away, but she's wrong. I'm going to find her." Clara wiped her tears. "I'll help you. I owe you that much." And so, we formed an unlikely pair, the old woman she had wronged, and the bride whose shame had taught her humility. The next few days were spent searching. Grace helped us make calls to cleaning agencies, local shops, and even some of Lydia's old coworkers. Most had no idea where she'd gone, but one woman said something that made my heart pound. "I remember Lydia," she told Grace over the phone. "She used to talk about a gold necklace she sold to a pawn shop near the old railway station. Said it made her rich enough to start a business in another town." "Another town?" Grace repeated. "Which one?" "Ravenwood," the woman said. "Ravenwood. That was 2 towns away." The next morning, we set out early. Clara drove, Grace sat beside her, and I sat quietly in the back seat, clutching the necklace and staring out the window. The road was long and bumpy, but my determination was solid as a rock. By noon, we reached Ravenwood. It was a small town with dusty streets and wooden houses. We asked around until someone pointed us to a small pawn shop called Henderson's Jewelry and Trade. The bell jingled as we stepped inside. The shopkeeper, a gray-haired man with kind eyes, looked up from behind the counter. "Good afternoon, ladies. How may I help you?" I smiled politely. "We're looking for information about a necklace that was sold here 2 years ago. Gold heart-shaped pendant, small diamond chip missing on the right side." The man's eyes lit up with, "Ah yes, I remember that necklace. Beautiful piece. A young woman sold it, said it was a family heirloom she needed to part with." "Do you remember her name?" I asked quickly. He scratched his head. I think she called herself Lydia. She said she was starting a cleaning company. Sold me the necklace for a good price." I leaned closer. "Do you know where she is now?" He nodded slowly. "Last I heard, she runs a small lodging house just down the road, the Silver Fern Inn." I thanked him, my heart thumping faster. As we left the shop, Clara whispered, "Do you really think she'll be there?" I gripped my cane tightly. "She's here. I can feel it." When we reached the Silver Fern Inn, I saw a tall woman standing at the front desk, black hat, same smirk. "Lydia." She looked up, and her smile vanished the moment she saw me. "Well," she said slowly, her voice dripping with mock sweetness, "if it isn't Grandma Rose. I was wondering when you'd come knocking." My heart pounded. The air felt heavy with the weight of old memories and new anger. "Hello, Lydia," I said calmly. "We have unfinished business, don't we?" Her smile widened slightly. "I suppose vedo." But before I could take another step, she reached under the counter and pulled something out, something shiny and cold. My heart froze. It was a gun. Lydia's hand shook slightly as she pointed the gun at me. The air grew so still that even the sound of the ceiling fan above us seemed to vanish. Clara gasped and took a step back, shielding Grace with her arm. My cane felt heavy in my hand, but I refused to let fear control me. "So this is how it ends, huh?" Lydia sneered. "You came all this way for an old piece of jewelry. I should have known you wouldn't let it go." I looked her dead in the eye. "It was never about the gold, Lydia. You didn't just steal a necklace. You stole a memory of love. My husband gave me that piece before he died. It was all I had left of him." Her face twitched. "Don't talk to me about loss, old woman. You think you're the only one who's suffered? I grew up with nothing, scrubbing floors for rich people who looked right through me. You had everything." I took a slow step forward. "And stealing made you feel better?" Her lips trembled. "It made me feel seen." I shook my head. "No, Lydia. It made you small. Because when you steal from others, you steal from yourself too. Your peace, your honor, your soul." Her arm began to tremble. The gun wavered. I could see the war in her eyes, pride fighting guilt. Clara whispered, "Please, Lydia, put it down. This isn't who you are." "Quiet," Lydia shouted, but her voice cracked. Tears welled in her eyes. "You think you can all just come here and corner me like a criminal? You made yourself one," I said softly. For a moment, she just stood there breathing hard. Then her shoulders sagged. Slowly, shakily, she lowered the gun. It clattered to the floor. Clara rushed forward and kicked it away. Grace picked it up with trembling hands and handed it to the innkeeper, who had been frozen in fear behind the counter. Lydia fell to her knees sobbing. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I thought if I started over, maybe the past would stay buried." I walked closer and placed a hand on her shoulder. "The past never stays buried, child. It follows you until you face it." She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. "What will you do to me?" I sighed. "Justice isn't mine to give, but mercy is." She blinked, confused. "You're not going to call the police?" I shook my head. "No. You'll do that yourself. Turn yourself in. Make things right. That's the only way to start over. Not by running, but by facing what you've done." She stared at me for a long time, then nodded slowly. "You're right," she said, her voice breaking. "I'll do it." We all walked out of that inn together. Lydia between me and Clara, silent and pale. By the time we reached the police station, the evening sun had started to set, painting the sky in gold and orange, just like the pendant that started it all. Inside, Lydia gave her confession. She admitted to the theft and explained how she sold the necklace, how guilt had eaten her alive for years, and how she tried to pretend it never happened. The officers listened quietly, then led her away. As she turned back to look at me one last time, tears filled her eyes again. "Thank you," she whispered, "for not giving up on justice and for not hating me." I nodded softly. "Hate only chains the heart. I've carried enough pain in mine already." When we left the station, Clara held my hand. "Grandma Rose," she said quietly, "I'll never forget this day. I learned that the truth can destroy, but it can also heal." I smiled. "Yes, my dear. And sometimes forgiveness is stronger than revenge." That night, back home, I placed the necklace in my jewelry box once more. It glowed faintly under the lamplight. Like Henry was smiling at me from beyond. I whispered, "I found it, my love. And I've made peace." Then I closed the box and looked at my reflection in the mirror. The years had etched lines on my face, but for the first time in a long while, I felt light again. Like the weight of the past had finally lifted. As I turned off the light and settled into my rocking chair, I realized something. Life will always test us. People will hurt us, betray us, and take what's precious. But what defines us is not how we fall, it's how we rise afterward, and how much love we still choose to carry in our hearts. That was the lesson my necklace taught me. And so I smiled, just like I did at the wedding that day. But this time, it wasn't a smile hiding pain. It was a smile of peace.